Hey guys, Ignocia here again, with another Affliction Warlock guide, this time for patch 5.4. In this guide I want to cover gear optimization, dot mechanics, how to manage fillers, how to optimize your super buff dots, how to do an opener, how to single target, how to multi-target, how to horn properly, and how to do your talents and glyphs. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so let's start with gear optimization. Let's start with gemming. You can follow this simple guide on how to gem, which basically goes like this. In red sockets you use 80 intellect and 160 mastery. In yellow socket you use 320 mastery, and in blue sockets you want to use 160 hit and 160 mastery. Unless you're far above the hit cap on 15%, if so, go for the 160 mastery, 320 stamina gem. The reason you want to go with a heavy mastery build prior to a heavy intellect build is simply because 2 mastery is worth more than 1 intellect, and the value of a secondary stat gem is always double as high as a primary stat gem. Now, let's move on to reforges. We still want to go for a very heavy mastery build due to the buffs to our dots. Considering our mastery empowers our dots, though, you do still want to go for a sudden haste breakpoint, which I will talk about in a moment. First of all, I want to show you an add-on I use for reforging, which makes it a lot easier. The add-on is called Reforge Lite. Now I'll show you what you want to do with this add-on. As you can see, I am aiming for the 9778 haste breakpoint, even though I can't go that low. This is the best sweet spot to go for due to how good mastery scales with our dots nowadays. Though, if you have trouble dropping under 13k haste due to heavy haste gear, then go for the 13,737 haste breakpoint instead. Now, after you have your hit cap, haste cap, and as much mastery as you can push from your gear, you want to reforge the remaining stats into haste above the breakpoint, considering raw haste is more useful than crit. Now, for enchants, there's nothing really special regarding enchants. Just take the usual enchants with mastery and gloves, and you should be fine. For those of you who are wondering which talents and glyphs to pick, here's what I do. Warlock's talents are mostly very situational, which means most of the talents are viable on different bosses, depending on which kind of boss it is. The only talent I always pick as Affliction is Grimoire Supremacy, due to that just being a DPS increase and everything, so yeah. For glyphs, basically I always use the same glyphs, so I don't know really. It's up to you. The difference between glyphs and talents are really small. So it's all up to you basically. Okay, so let's talk about which pet to use as an Affliction Warlock. The pet you will see the highest DPS from is the Observer, though the difference in DPS between pets is extremely small. I personally always use my Imp because it has its advantages. First of all, it's ranged. It doesn't have to move to my target to attack, which makes it much more flexible. Secondly, it has a Master Spell, which is extremely useful on sudden bosses, so in my opinion, you should use the Imp. Okay, now, let's move on to how you should play a Warlock. So, let's talk about how dots exactly works. Dots works like this. When you apply a dot, it will take a picture of your current stats, which are haste, spell power, crit, and mastery. If those values are increased by procs after you have applied your dot, the dot will not get affected due to the snapshot mechanic. Though, if you reapply that dot with the bonus stat value from the proc, the dot will keep this stat value even when the buff wears off. This is very important to know as an Affliction Warlock, as your primary damage is your dots. I would recommend the add-on F-Dots. This add-on basically helps you remember how strong your current dots are, so you don't accidentally reapply them with weaker stat values. Okay, let's move on to your filler spells. Malefic Grasp and Drain Soul are both rather weak this tier, due to the nerfs Blizzard had to add to compensate the boss to our dots. This means channeling our fillers is not as important as it used to be, though it is still important to handle them correctly. The main thing about handling your fillers correctly is basically how you clip the channel. The add-on Quartz is really amazing to help you out here. It shows when your filler ticks throughout the channel, which makes it easier not to clip the channel just before a tick. So let's move on to proper usage of Haunt. Haunt is a very important ability for Affliction, which also needs to be managed correctly to be more efficient. Haunt gives your dots 40% more flat damage basically, and it costs 1 soul shard. It is very important to know when it is a good idea to spend your haunts and when it is not. Basically, if your dots are empowered by a few procs, such as a trinket proc, a legendary metagem proc, and a weapon enchant proc, you could use your shards for haunts until these empowered dots run out. Though, when you have dots rolling on your target that are not empowered by any strong procs, you should pull your shards till you have 3 shards, then use a haunt even though your dots are weak. This is due to the chance that your corruption will proc 2 shards at the same time, which will result in not getting an extra shard from the corruption proc. Also, your soul shards on Soulburn. Also use your soul shards on Soulburn Soul Swap when you have a lot of procs active, as manually applying dots takes time and you don't want to spend too much time casting stuff while your abilities hit hard. So let's move on to how your rotation looks like. Let's start with single target. A single target rotation is pretty much what I've been stating earlier in the video. Good dot management and good haunt management is key to win the single target DPS. Now I'll show you how it looks like and how your opener should look like. Start with a soul burn before you enter combat. If you're lucky, your raid leader will make the pull timer so that you can have the soul burn buff on less than 10 seconds remaining when the buff is pulled, which results in you being able to apply all of your dots while keeping 4 soul shards. Precast haunt after your prepot, about 2 seconds before the boss is pulled. Apply your dots with the pre-used soul burn. Use Malefic Grasp until one of your procs are about 1 second to run out. This is usually the legendary metagem proc. Due to its short duration, soul burn soul swap just before it runs out and spam Malefic Grasp while keeping up haunt. When your dots are no longer super strong, pull up some soul shards so you can keep a good uptime on haunt for the next time you get a good proc streak. If you can manage your dots perfectly, you will see very good single target results from Affliction. Actually, I'd say it is one of the strongest single target specs in the game currently if played properly. Okay, let's move on to multi-target. Multi-target has changed a lot in this patch. The way soul swap works is just amazing now in my opinion. I love how I can dot everything by spamming my soul swap. Now I'll show you how it looks like. Basically, you do your normal single target opener, then swap your dots to the next target and just keep going till everything's dotted up. Now go back to your opener target and make sure you start swapping again when you have reapplied the expiring dots. Take in mind that when you swap your dots from the target you did your opener on, the dots will also be super strong on the targets you swapped to, which means the soul swap dots keeps the picture of your stat value when you applied your dots during the opener, which makes Affliction's multi-dot burst extremely strong and probably the strongest in the game. Now I found out something to keep your super dots from the opener lasting longer, which should be a DPS increase considering how strong your dots are from the opener. Now I'll show you how it's done. Basically what you do is, do your multi-target opener. When everything's dotted, just haunt your main target and start swapping again, even though your dots haven't expired. When you get to the last target, swap the dots from that to your primary target, and you will see about 2 seconds extra duration on your super buff dots on all the targets you've been swapping around. Now, if you follow this and understand everything I've explained, you should see very good results when you play Affliction. I hope this guide have helped you, and if you got any questions, leave it in the comments below, I will answer. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, it really helps a lot. That's it from me, Ignocia out.